All right. So welcome,
Great.
everyone. Beth, you want to take it on over?
Sure. Okay, great. So thank you everybody for joining. This is the meeting of the Long Island Organics Council. And today we'll be talking about the East End Countertop Recycler pilot and a few other topics. Next slide. So today the agenda is we're going to spotlight the East End Countertop Recycler pilot. Then after that, we'll have a Q&A session about it. And then we have a few other updates about other topics. And we want to hear from the people that are participating as well about any member updates about projects you have going on with composting on Long Island. And then just have some closing remarks and next steps. If you'd like to introduce yourselves, please put your name and your, any organization affiliation, anything you'd like to share about your interest in composting and organics in the chat. And that way we can all get to know each other. Next.
I don't even know where I am. That's
You have to mute yourselves. That would be great. Okay, and so just introducing who the Long Island Organics Council is at the moment. Our steering committee is made up of myself, Beth Fateni, Judy Greco, as well as Francesca Greco, the sisters Greco, and Meghna Jain, who I think should be joining us as well. And we're always looking for new volunteers, which we'll talk about in a few minutes also. Next. So our mission at the Long Island Organics Council is to build a strong network from across Long Island committed to the sustainable management of non-edible organic materials through all scales of composting, anaerobic digestion, and the beneficial use of compost, with compost being the highest of all, ideally. So our speakers today are three people that are involved in the East End Countertop Recycling pilot, which is being spearheaded by Mary Morgan. And it's my honor to introduce her. She's a former locavore, now a climatarian. Mary lives in Orient with her husband, Tom, who's a mushroom forager. They are early founders of Slow Food East End, which started in 2004. Mary ran the Guggenheim Museum Children's Program in the past. And then moving east, she was Director of Alumni Relations at Southampton College and Director of Public Relations for the Marine Program of Cornell Cooperative Extension, helping to start the Spat Community Oyster Project. And 4 years ago, Mary co-founded a grassroots East End effort inspired by the climate science analysis of Project Drawdown to advance local climate solutions. So welcome, Mary, and she'll introduce our other speakers. Thank you. Mary, you can take it away. You're on mute.
Unmute. Thank you. Thank you, Beth. And I will introduce our other two speakers in a minute. That's Ann Smith and Nancy DePass-Reidenstein. But I want to first just share a few words about why I'm involved in volunteering to organize and run this pilot, and what inspired me to be such an advocate for compost and reducing food waste. So if I can share my screen, that would be great.
You can go ahead, Mary.
Okay, great. I have it up on my screen, but not on your screen. See.
Hmm.
I don't know if this is gonna work.
We can see it.
You can see it?
Yep.
Yeah, we can see it.
The,
You see
Left.
my screen?
the
There.
Yeah.
Latham Farm Stand screen?
Yeah.
Yep, we
Right.
can see it.
Oh,
Just go to
fantastic.
slideshow. Yep.
Okay, great. I'm going to go to slideshow. Great. Presentation view. Nope, that's not good. There we are. Excellent. Thank you. So I'm a foodie. I care about climate. And I asked myself, what can I do? Can my food choices have a real impact on climate change? And I did the research and I found through the science that yes, food matters, which actually I think is very good news. I was bowled away by this pie chart. You can see electricity is 25% of our US greenhouse gas sources emissions. No surprise. But then you look at the green part, it's land use and food. That's 24%, which is huge. Why are the emissions so high? Well, just as far as consumers go, we waste 35 to 40% of our food. That's a lot. And just food waste alone is 8% of emissions. You don't really hear about worldwide. You don't really hear about that. We're starting to get some press on it. I copied the Washington Post headline. A third of all food in the US gets wasted. Fixing that could help fight climate change, because food waste, greenhouse gases are 3 times that of the airline industry. It's not waste, it's an organic resource. It makes a valuable compost. And getting back to Drawdown, the 100 solutions to reverse global warming, they've ranked 100 solutions. They've made reducing food waste number 3 and compost number 57. And the UN pathway to zero emissions across the world is the goal of 50/30, which is 50% reduction of food waste in 2030. I'm going to move on to the next one. I won't move. Okay. Compost is a valuable resource. And I just wanted to add this slide because I consider compost soil gold. We know it's black gold. It adds nutrient to our soil. It's blue gold. It builds structure, so it acts like a sponge, aiding in coastal resilience and erosion control. And it's climate gold. Something people don't really know is that it helps soil sequester carbon. And soil can hold 3 times more carbon in the atmosphere than carbon in the atmosphere and oceans. 3 times more than what's in the atmosphere and oceans. The Countertop recycler pilot that I'm helping manage is basically a community climate solution. I had made a pledge, 0 food scraps were going to go to the landfill, no methane for me. And when I learned about this recycler pilot that's happening all over communities in Canada, and now some in New York State and in California, I thought this is good for us. And basically with a touch of a button, you can reduce your food waste by 90% overnight. It's very low electricity. It provides, we provide community data for our town in an online survey, and we save with a pilot discount. The pilot is open to any resident in Suffolk County, but residents on the East End will have their data tallied for presentation to the towns. Then there's a school bonus, which the Long Island Organics Council negotiated, which I think is great. For every 50 units purchased, the Long Island Organics Council will receive an appliance for an East End school for their recycling and science program. So we're trying to get up to at least 50 so we can have at least 1 unit for a school. What pilot participants are saying, we're going to be hearing from them in 2 minutes. This is my last slide. I wanted to mention what to do with the byproduct. It's dry tea leaves, I call it. There's a jar there that's about 1/2 cup. That is the 90% reduction of my food from last night. It's just a little tiny bit of dry tea leaves you get at the end of the cycle. You can use it to enrich your garden soil. You add it to compost as an accelerator. You can give it to neighbors. You can drop it off at local farms. We have 2 that have signed up so far, McCary Vineyards and Oyster Pond's Berry Farm. And you can drop it off at the town mulch sites, the grass clippings and leaf drop off. This is actually my last slide. It's just a showing of the 2 units. And the discount, which is the $400 unit, is discounted to $249, and the $600 unit is discounted to $369. And now I want to reverse my escape out. Not sure how I do this. New share. And I go back.
At the top, it should say stop sharing if you want to stop sharing your screen.
I do, and I don't know how to do that.
Do you see a little bar at the top? I don't think we can.
Yes, I do. Very good.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for guiding me through that, Judy.
No problem.
So let me introduce 2 participants in the pilot. Ann Smith, who's from Mattituck. She's a former superintendent of schools of the Mattituck-Cutchogue School District. There she helped start the Slow Food School Garden. She helped the district start an innovative program for secondary school students, that partnership with the Farm Bureau, Suffolk County, and Carl Gabrielson to promote ag education and careers in agriculture. And Anne signed up to the pilot, hoping to inspire schools and family participation. And our other panelist is Nancy DePass Reinerston, Southold. She's a retired teacher, master gardener, member of the Suffolk Alliance for Pollinators, and co-chair of the North Fork Pollinator Pathway, where she recently organized the first pollinator crawl featuring 13 gardens. Nancy is on the Southold Civics Environmental Advisory Committee, the Town Garden Club, and is a 12-year member of Slow Food East End. And at home, she bakes sourdough bread, tends her gardens, and 7 compost bins. So thank you, Anne and Nancy. And I'm just going to kind of do a round robin. Maybe I'll start with Anne. I'm going to ask you both, how's the pilot going? And why did you join? And what do you do with your soil amendment?
So I'll start. Hi, everyone. Thanks for being here. Always good to learn from each other. So my food cycler arrived the same day that I was headed to a Mattituck Laurel Civic meeting where Mark Hobner was having a discussion with whoever was there. And so I hadn't even taken it out of the box yet. So I rushed off to the meeting. And that's, Mary, where I got that phrase that he taught us to use. First of all, changing our language from food scraps to food waste. And then he was the one who kept repeating, closing the loop. If the food starts here, the food stays here. And it just inspired me to go home and lift this very heavy thing out of the box. So that's the short amount of time I've been using it. I could not have been more impressed the first night I used it. I just couldn't believe what was in there and what it had been reduced to. I do have and have been using for a bit the Sub Pod, which is the in the ground worm bin. They're a little picky. They won't accept everything. And the food cycler accepts more. And then I can use the product for the worms as one of the layers. So I'm using it that way. So I'd say so far so good. It's really making me more conscious of how much food I'm prepping, what I'm doing with corn cobs and watermelon rind right now. There's a lot of that. But I'm really excited to be part of it and to learn from everybody else.
Absolutely. And this is my last night's 90% reduction. It's just a little bit. So Nancy, tell me, how's it going and why did you join and what do you do with the soil amendment?
I love it. It's been going really great. I think it was sometime in the spring. I invited you over for brunch and you were talking about this, and I didn't realize how much I follow in your footsteps. I've been a member of Slow Food for my husband and I are members. My husband, Ralph Reinertson, is a board member. We've been, and I think I met you maybe when you were still board chair of Slow Food. That's how I met you. I'm an avid gardener, obviously. I'm master gardeners, and I'm always got my hands in the dirt. There's no, no way I can keep a manicure except that gardener's manicure with dirt under the nails. So I'm going to hide that. I love using it. I think we got it about a month ago. We picked it up because as members of Slow Food East End, we were able to help get this off the ground and was it at Macari? I believe my husband picked it up. He's over here. And I was thrilled. And I had lots of scraps, filled it up. Even though I read that you could put bones in it, I'm like, that's not happening, not today. I had made a big soup. And so I had a lot of fibrous. I took out some of the, I had made a potato leek soup, but I also had a lot of fibrous products, side products from the soup that were Swiss chard, and it was kind of stringy. So we put it in and turn it on. We're excited. We can't wait to get it started. Ralph and I are having dinner on the deck, and I hear this really strange sound coming out of it. I looked at him. He didn't say anything, and he looked at me, and it sounded like whale songs. It sounded like some very gassy whales that were singing along in the background. That was our introduction to it. But we use it 2 or 3 times a week. We have the larger one, so we only need it twice a week, really. I use the amendments in lots of my compost bins, and I have different types. I have the 3-bin. I have smaller plastic ones. I don't have a worm bin, and you and I are going to have to talk because I really need a worm bin with all of my gardens. And I was surprised that the food cycler people had not talked about using compost tea. And since they haven't experimented with it in their labs, I'm making compost tea. So that's what I'm doing, but I mix it up with soil and add it to my plants as well as, and it's supposed to be 10-1, and I'm trying to stick to that, but it's really hard. I make a lot of it and I love it. Absolutely love it. I'm spreading the word to everybody.
I'm really glad you're making compost tea, being the taking the lead on that, Nancy. I actually had got an email from one of the participants asking me about that, and I said I'm going to put you in touch with each other.
Absolutely.
What I do is, you do receive an welcome email from Food Cycle Science with a lot of information and ways to reach out to them for any scientific questions or other questions. But also I send out an email to everybody welcoming them, saying I'm the local, organizer, and any questions about anything local. And I'll be in touch, call me or email me. And also as we get more farms, putting out buckets that receive the dry soil amendment, I'll be sending that information out too. So people are in touch with me and asking me questions, and then I can relate the questions to everyone.
Excellent. Yeah.
Is there
how my tea is fermenting? I talked to Ira from KK, and let's see if he can guide me in the right direction to making the right kind of tea.
I know he's a biodynamic farmer. Was he sort of skeptical about the?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I like that.
He wants to know everything that goes.
Absolutely.
There's a science sheet that I can send him that is an analysis from a university in Canada.
Yes, I shared it with him.
Okay, great.
He hasn't gotten back to me.
Okay, great.
Great. Yeah.
And also, anyone who goes to the town dump, landfill, whatever we call our dump, old name for dump, new name for dump. You can just mix it with your grass clippings.
Absolutely,
so
yeah.
and leaves. And it's inert. There's no pathogens in it because this is all food that's basically been heated up and ground. So it's basically dried food, which is why it's not compost. Compost is a living, as Nancy can, and Anne probably can explain, compost is a living thing. Worms, it can feed worms, but this is inert. It's very safe to handle because it's like sand, really. But you have to mix it with soil to make it work in your garden.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah. It
And
needs living, as you said. So the soil is full of life, full of worms and mycorrhizae, which is, it's a nicer word than, say, mushrooms and fungus, but we need that. The plants absolutely need all of that. And so this just accelerates how quickly my open composts that have lots of leaves and plant clippings and what's already gone. So it will really accelerate that. I see it breaking down very quickly. And so I'm excited about that.
yeah, I heard that from a landscaper when in East Hampton, when he was learning about the food cycler. And he said, I buy a compost accelerator, which is basically what this is. And I asked if I could quote him. He said, sure, just, East Hampton landscaper. But I was surprised. I didn't know people bought accelerators and used them in their compost piles.
Yeah, just makes it heat up and break down quicker. And it's about $25 for a bag like this. So
Wow.
I'm happy to make it myself.
Yeah, make it yourself. And did you have a favorite thing about it so far that you liked?
Well, my favorite thing about it, there are really two things. One is sort of this notion of what it's reduced to, which is giving me more confidence that I can reduce what I'm bringing to the landfill. And then the second thing is this sort of new learning curve, because I didn't properly put it into my raised beds and noticed this sort of crust on the soil and realized, oh, I'm kind of learning without reading the manual, aren't I? So I went, then I realized I really had to work it into the soil. And then I started to get anxious that I was going to have more material than I needed. And just looked around the yard and I said, you have 3 pear trees over there. I'm sure they would love some of this, So it's just getting used to kind of how to distribute it. And that's where I think, someone like Nancy, who kind of is ahead in understanding this whole process, could really help the rest of us stick to something like this, because that's been, I think, a lot of people's experience with composting is you're all gung-ho and you get all this stuff. And then you realize, oh, I have to do a lot of stuff to it's work properly. So I love getting sort of the encouragement from other people so that I don't just do it for a while, that I really stick with it.
That was my experience.
Second
favorite
thing is the last 2 times we've gone to the landfill, because we bring everything ourselves in our truck. And, sometimes those bags can be heavy, and I'm just noticing they're just not as heavy. So that's a pretty cool.
That's pretty cool.
Non-scientific piece of data for you. I haven't weighed it and then done a whole study, but it's pretty like, wow, I feel really good about what I'm doing here.
That's great.
Yeah.
I'd like to hear from anyone. Anyone have any questions? Not quite sure if you raise your hand. How does that work, Judy? Do people?
They can either put their questions in the chat or you can raise your hand.
Right. I'll just tell you what we do with our dry soil amendment is, well, we started using the food cycler last November, kind of tested out. And Tom said, I'm keeping this for the spring to go in the garden. I said, really? So we have a bucket we keep in the basement, and it's covered. The soil amendment has stayed dry. And then when spring rolled around, we maybe had 3/4 of a bucket full. And then you mix it 10-to-1, 8-to-1, 10-to-1 with soil. So that's what he did. And then our gardens are, mixed correctly with the right amount of soil amendment. He's got another bucket going in the basement. I said, why don't you just put it in our, kind of loose compost pile that we have out there. Said, no, I'm gonna use it next spring. So I don't know. We'll see.
That's the
We'll
plan.
see. But yeah, next spring or whenever he's gonna use it, I'm gonna use it. But it's dry. It has not moldy or anything like that. You keep it covered. Don't let rain on it or whatever. And it's been fine.
I think the beauty about it is it really has no smell. And I think while we're waiting for questions to come up, I have to tell you this, what happened to me about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. There was an event through Slow Food at Cedar Beach. It was called Slow Fish right. And I volunteered there. And I'm watching this guy do the most amazing fish filleting demonstration. It's great. He's filleting fish left and right, zoom, zoom. He's got all of his fingers and he takes the skeleton, the fish skeleton, the carcass, and plops it in a black plastic bag. And he's doing this for about 3 hours. So I ask him, what are you going to do with all of that? Are you going to throw this back into the bay? And it's like, well, no, doesn't do that. Well, anyway, Nancy takes home this big bag of fish guts and skeletons and all. And according to the food cycler, I can use fish bones, can use chicken bones, no beef bones, within a small amount. So
Right.
what we've been doing is about like one, and I chop them up, I cut up and break up that. Oh, by the way, the bag is in the refrigerator. I don't have it fermenting and decomposing. So I have taken this, and every time I run it, I put in one skeleton and some slimy guts in there, not too much, trying to figure out the proportions. And there's a little fish smell, a tiny bit at the first time I did it. I realized, okay, that was 2 fish not doing it. 1 fish is better. And when you open it up the next morning, there is no fish smell. There is no residue. It just, however, it dehydrates and bakes and cooks and breaks it down. And it is this fine, leafy sand, beautiful, beautiful end product. So I'm sure that's going to be great for my tomatoes in the spring. So tell Tom I'm following his lead. I'm saving that extra good stuff for my next year's tomatoes.
We had our nephew, who's 11, visit from California. And of course, he's fascinated with this, appliance. And it basically composts food. We were explaining how it worked. And then we let him smell, he's like, oh, it smells so good. It smells like cinnamon. And what really made him happy was because we were telling him how California is way ahead of New York State in doing the right thing and food waste and the collection sites and all that. And we said, well, we're trying to do our part. This is what, we're doing something similar to yours. Just like you guys don't create any methane with your food. You don't send any food to a landfill to become methane. This is our way of not releasing methane. And he got really happy about that. These kids they know a lot of science, a lot of climate science.
We did get a question in the chat from Christina. She was asking, how noisy is it?
Except for that similar sound that Nancy was talking about. And my son was visiting during that time too, and he just kind of looked at me, and I kind of looked at him. We kind of looked at the dog, and we're like, no, I think it's the food cycler. And I did have one time when I did not cut the strips up enough, and I could hear some of that kind of scraggling around in there. But other than that, it's just got this beautiful blue light that goes in a circle, and it's I would call it quiet. And I do run it at night. I don't hear it.
You keep it in your kitchen?
It's in the kitchen. Yep. I have my regular little bin, sort of my holding ground. And then I wait until I think I have enough to get it up to the top. And then carefully put it in there. I still am figuring out whether I should take the container out and put it on the counter. It is a little heavy. And then getting it situated in just right. I'm still working on, like, should I fill it this way? I don't want to get food around it. But it's right on the counter. It's fine. It's great.
We have ours underneath a bar, like in the kitchen. I know some people put it in their mudroom or in their garage. You just have to be able to plug it in. And then the insert is, so big. We do keep that on the counter, and we thought we were going to have to keep it in the fridge, but it's got a cover, and for 3 or 4 days you put eggshells in and, carrot scraps and lettuce leaves and even little bones like you're talking about, and put the cover on, no smell, and then put that, insert that into the food cycler, put the cover on, press the button, and you're right. We do it at night, it's what, 4 to 6 hours, something like that, about the same amount of electricity as the computer being on. And by morning, I mean, there's no smell in the house. It's we don't hear anything.
I actually still use my old regular countertop compost bin. So I have 2 bins right next to the sink. I have the food cycler one, which I want to complement the way they have that extra the top to it, because it screws on nice and tight, and I love that. But since I put whatever napkins or paper towels or sometimes cardboard, I cut that up and put it into the other one, which goes directly outside. So that's the only difference. I mean, I'll figure out how I'm going to do that, but they don't want you putting paper in there or anything.
Yeah, oily paper. There's a question about, is there a filter, and do you need to change it? Now, I know that the one that's the FC30, I think it's called, there's a filter for that one. But I was also told by Food Cycle Science you don't really need to use the filter. So we were using that for 6 months, and we never bothered to put a filter in. It runs just fine. You don't need to use the filter. You can buy filters if you want. The Eco 5, I think there's a built-in filter that's
Like
kind of like a cylinder.
Mhm.
And again, we weren't going to change it. We were just our experience is you don't really need the filter. I don't know about you, Nancy, too.
We put in the filter, right,
Yeah.
Darren? Yeah, we put it in the filter. It was there. We haven't had to change it, even with all the stinky fish guts. And breaking down that harder fibrous or bones, it makes a little bit of creaky, cranky noises. But it's really not noisy, and not at all. I don't think so. We have the larger one. I don't know the number, but we took the larger one because we recycle everything. And we rarely go to the dump, and we really put hardly anything in there. Everything gets recycled, right? We go very rarely. And I try to put as much as I can and have as much natural and
more for glass than anything.
yeah, it's got, our wine bottles ends up by going to the recycle center, but there's very little garbage that we create.
That's great.
Mhm.
Same here, it's very nice to have no garbage.
It truly is. I don't like that. With the Southold Peconic Civic Association, we're starting a beach cleanup, and I'm been going around to some of the beaches, and I'm shocked that people don't know that if you're going to bring it in, you got to take it out.
Yeah.
And I see that. So
It's an old boating maxim, take it in, take it out.
absolutely. Mhm.
I know that, Judy, there's more to this meeting than our conversation. Tell me what the plan is. You want me to keep
Oh, we're
asking
still
questions?
good. We're still good. We have
Still-
another 10 minutes for the Q&A. So
Oh, great.
people are free to ask questions, raise their hands. I'm not sure if
Any other questions from people? Like, are you considering joining the pilot? Taking advantage of the discount and answering questions?
Yeah, the link is in the chat.
I think I just lost the chat. The link is in the chat, yes. And you can always email me. There's that email. I can put my own personal email in the chat.
We can share the presentation in a bit.
So that if you have questions you want to ask me directly.
Can someone say more about the incentive for the schools and what you're thinking and how we can facilitate that either with other donations or maybe a meeting with the ag teachers or someone?
Great question, Anne. We
I
have an
was also-
advisory team.
I was also going to ask Anne that question too. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Great.
When you were talking about the capacity of these, do you want to call them composters or food recyclers? Right?
Officially, they're food recyclers. Yeah.
Food recyclers, yeah. Going into the school setting and you have, maybe couple of hundred kids, maybe more. How many of those would you need in the kitchen facilities?
Well,
Or do you go to the industrial?
there is an industrial
commercial
side, that's
size?
true. Well, the good thing about this company, Food Cycler Science of Canada, is that they made a partnership with Eco Schools. And they have run these community pilot programs in over 90 some communities across Canada. And they've developed a curriculum for the schools. So there's a double layer of a curriculum, which is one, you have the smaller unit in the classroom, and from kindergarten through 12th grade, there's a curriculum for the science piece of that and how it fits into, the rain cycle, the carbon cycle, all of this stuff that they learn at different levels. And then there's also a larger unit that the school can use that for lunch. And the idea is that you first get the kids to reduce their food waste. I know that schools on the South Fork have limited their no trays and done other things that are best practices for getting students to not overtake food and eat everything that they are, that they've selected. So that you start with that, and then you go, and then there's the food cycler will maybe run, I don't know, hopefully once or twice a day, I don't know, for the rest, and it could go into their school garden. So there's a whole science piece. And to answer Anne's question, we have an advisory team, which I was going to, when we started to focus on the school piece, with your expertise, I was going to ask you to come in and help us with coming up with maybe having a questionnaire or application by schools to and maybe some kind of selection process. I wasn't sure.
I'd be happy to do that, but my experience in working with Slow Foods in particular, and the schools on the South Fork who are really ahead of us in this concept, they used to meet like once a month, like the whatever teacher was doing it, and then we would visit their schools and kind of go around. So I could even see if that's still happening, because if the South Fork schools are figuring this out, then let's just learn from them and see where we can jump in on the North Fork.
Yeah, and actually, there is now another group starting to form that is people like me and others in communities who want to encourage composting, and they're working with schools. So one of our advisors is working in East Hampton doing a pilot program, getting people to bring their food scraps to the farmer's market, and then it goes to a farm. Actually, it's going to the town of East Hampton, and they are managing mixing the food waste in with their normal compost, which is where we all want to be. And we want all of our towns to do that. And that's some of the data that we're collecting from this pilot, is to be able to go to each of the 5 East End towns and say, this demonstrates that people want to reduce their food waste. They don't want to be taking it to the landfill and having it become methane. They're willing to, participate in pilots like this to to show towns that they will, separate their food from their other waste and do something else with it. They may not want to have a compost site, or they may have issues with the other ways of creating compost, but here's yet another solution. And maybe the towns, let's offer some options to our community. Here's a menu. So we're putting
We do
together a
have
menu.
few questions in the chat, and Judy has her hand raised. So Judy, do you want to go ahead?
Yeah, so I was gonna say, I think we missed Margaret's question. She asked, can someone show their device?
Oh, I'm not.
Well, my
near
best
mine.
my best attempt right here is these two.
A photo.
As a photo, I'd have to run down, and the machine is like a bread maker.
Ralph is gonna go get it. I can actually just bring my laptop there, but Ralph is gonna go get, I don't know if he's gonna get the whole thing. It's about the size of an air fryer
Mhm.
or more.
And the insert is, a bin that you can put on your counter.
Like a bucket, nice black, but let's see if I can get my guys.
Thank you, Nancy. That's great.
Yeah.
What was the other
Right.
question?
And it's full.
Here's our bucket that's nice and full.
Aha.
Can you see? Oh, I'm sorry. That's looking funny. My background is making it look funny. Oh gosh,
It's
I'm sorry.
disappeared.
I know it's
Oh.
there we
There
go.
we go. There it is.
All right, and I would love to show you how full it is. So I've got a weed, and I've got some mint because we're making mint tea, and there's some Swiss chard stems in there too. And it's nice. It's got this big bottom there, and it kind of clicks into the big machine that is coming along. And we have the big one. I don't know what that number is. Oh, you want to turn it around? All right. This is Ralph Reinertsen, my handsome husband.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hi,
Harry,
Ralph. Thank you
name.
for doing this, Ralph. Thank you.
More than welcome.
Can you see it with my background, or do we have to bring it closer?
I think we have to bring it closer. It's disappeared.
I know. I don't know how to. Oh, come on. One of you young people who know how to do this background thing. Help me with that.
You would have to right click on your photo itself, like on your little square where the three dots are.
Uh-huh.
Let me try it on
Stop
myself.
stop video. Blur my background.
It's the choose virtual background, and then you can get rid of it when you click on that, and you go to, it says background and effects.
Got
and
it.
you click on, there you go.
Got it. Nice. Okay.
Beautiful.
So this would be your background.
This is my back. So it's there, and when you turn it on, the little light goes on, and there's this it clicks right in. It's pretty cool. Like I say,
You want to put it in?
The cover's open. The cover closes.
Yep.
Yeah.
The cover closes. Let's see.
Yeah.
And then you kind of turn it around just to make sure that it's closed properly. There we go. And then, my honey, you're going to close it. And because it's not plugged in, you can't really, it won't close. I guess it has to be plugged in to close better. And then it goes on. And I guess this one's pretty full. I can put one more fish carcass in it. Get rid of them. Yeah. And that's it. That's good.
Well, we have
Anything
two
else?
more questions. So someone's asking, how heavy is the composter and what does the shipping cost?
Shipping
Ralph,
costs is
very
$35.
It's heavy.
Yeah, this one's heavy. It's
Well, this one's big and it's full of stuff. So it's what, like 25 pounds?
probably a little more.
A little bit more than that. Yeah. Like you could say it is. And we did get the bigger one because we figured why not?
And Lynn has a good question. She says, I'm wondering, does the company have any accommodations for people who find these food recyclers unaffordable? Many people on this call may be able to afford it, but what about populations that are most affected by landfills? Like I think you said you work with Blarg. So Good question. We did try to get the cost of these machines down as much as possible. Mary worked on that, but I don't know if you want to comment, Mary.
Well, we're actually an experiment by the food cycler science people because they haven't worked with a nonprofit before. Typically, they work with a town and they will help the town find grant money. So some towns, they offer, let's say, 500 to their community, town members, town citizens, and at a very discounted price, because not only does food cycle discount, but then the town gets grant money. So that's what we're hoping. I'm hoping that, by the end of December, when our application period is over and we collect all the data, we can go from town to town and say, supervisor or environmental committee, let's get everyone doing this, or at least another X number of people, by applying, working with Food Cycler again and applying for some grant money. And they have written many proposals. So, I mean, it's really kind of boilerplate for them.
Yeah, Mary, I really think that's the way to approach the town here in Southold, because they've been putting their toe in the water a little bit with compost and food scraps. I know you did another pilot with them during COVID or just before, but I was at CAST today meeting with Kathy about a few things, and they run a really great culinary program there where local chefs come in and teach all kinds of food prep and cooking skills. I'm sure they would love to participate in the pilot, and I think it's a good place to just spread the education. And then I also have a concern about access. Like I can afford this, and I can tell you how excited I am and how my worms are doing, but I agree it needs to be community wide.
Well, I really appreciate the sentiment, and I am concerned too, and that's why I see this as a stepping stone. It's part of a bigger picture. It's really part of a whole composting effort done by the Long Island Organics Council. There are many ways to reduce our food waste and divert it from the landfills. This is one, and if a group of us test it out, whatever size our group is, I'd like to get it to be a larger group, and that's hoping to advertise that a little more to the general public. But again, we can go to the town and say, let's do what some other towns do. Let's make this affordable. Let's have it so that maybe there's some free food cyclers for different not-for-profits and schools. The grants could be written for that, proposals.
Yeah. So we have 10
one
minutes.
more question. We have a question, and then I think, sorry, Beth. I think you were going to say it's time for the next segment.
Yes.
But the last question I saw was, how can I find the study you referred to about connecting to science curricula for kids?
Oh, whoever that was, just if you
Mimi.
need my email, who is it?
It's me, Mimi.
Oh, Mimi, I can send you their curriculum.
Oh, thank you.
Sure.
All right. Yeah.
And anybody else, just shoot me an email and say you want the school curriculum, and I'll send it off. We haven't really met and looked at it as an advisory team yet, but I've reviewed it a little bit. It's nice.
Is
And
it
of course,
is it published or no? I guess not. It's in draft or
it's
are schools reviewing it, or my daughter-in-law is in a sort of a startup and developing new science curricula from a Microsoft startup using Oculus, and
great.
she'd be interested in what you're doing for sure.
Definitely love to talk with her. I'll
Yeah.
send you what I have.
Okay,
And we
thanks.
can also talk with Food Cycle Science about anything more in depth that we want.
Thanks. Great. Interesting. Thanks for a great presentation and organization to pull everybody together. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, well done.
Long Island Organics Council is really doing a lot of good things.
Thank you so much, Mary. And thank you, Mary, Anne, and Nancy, for all putting this presentation together for us. It was really great and insightful to hear from all of you. And the next segment, if you all want to stick around, as we have some updates and potential grant information as well that we're going to share with you for anyone who wants to start up a food waste or compost related initiative. There's some information we're going to share. And I believe, Mary, some people wrote in the chat, so if you can just answer some of their questions in the chat, that would be great. Beth, thank you.
Okay, so here we are.
And then just put it on slideshow mode. Awesome. All right, so there has been a nationwide survey released on full-scale food waste composting facilities. The company BioCycle collaborated with the Composting Consortium on this survey. And 200 composting facilities provided data on quantities of food waste and other organics processed, compost produced, etc. So it's quite interesting, their findings. There's a food waste map, and other information with the survey. So I will put that link in the chat for all of you to be able to access that information. Just give me one moment.
Judy, could you even email that to everybody who is in this presentation?
Absolutely, yeah. I'll send all of this out and follow up.
That would be wonderful,
And
because
recording.
my two other organizations with the Civic Association and the Pollinator Pathway, we would love to find out more information about this and to work with you on any grants.
Yeah, that would be great. So yeah, I'll be sure to send this out in our email newsletter, as well as include our recording from today so everyone has access to it. Another update is the EPA released version 3 of the excess food opportunities map. So what this means, so this interactive map is a useful resource that allows businesses, organizations, and government to make connections and find opportunities to make the best use of their excess food. So in this map, it includes about 950,000 potential generators, such as food manufacturers, retailers, and restaurants, as well as 6,500 potential recipients, such as food banks and composting, and anaerobic digestion facilities. So I'll send that link in the chat as well. And
Next
Beth,
one.
yes. So that's the link to the map. Another update we have from the LIOC end is we are presenting in Riverhead on September 12th from 6:30 to 7:30 p.m. We'll be presenting on Riverhead's food scrap drop-off site and how to participate. So this is basically to engage more people in Riverhead. I'm not sure if there's anyone from Riverhead on this call right now, but this is a great initiative that the Long Island Organics Council worked on this year in Riverhead to get the first food scrap drop-off site on Long Island. I don't know if Gloria was on this call, but she spearheaded another food scrap drop-off site in East Hampton. But we will be talking all about this initiative in Riverhead on September 12th. Basically also give a composting 101 presentation and offer low-cost food scrap countertop bins for Riverhead residents to purchase through the town of Riverhead. So those are just standard bins, not food cyclers. And then final update, the National Zero Waste Conference is coming up Thursday, October 26th, 2023. Sorry, I just lost it.
Oh, it's on Zoom, so anyone can participate.
Yes. So it's an annual 2-day virtual educational networking event organized by Zero Waste USA and partners. and you said, Beth, that it's on Zoom, and it's $150. For students, it's a little less expensive at $75, and for the speakers, I believe it's free. I don't think there's any speakers in this call, but yeah, you can learn more about this through the zerowasteusa.org link I just put in the chat. And then next is the grant opportunities. So one grant opportunity that is coming, the deadline is from August 2023 to October 2023. So it depends on the program area. It's the USDA Agriculture and Food Research Initiative grant. So these grants covered a wide variety of topics and eligible entities, and the funding for this is up to $300 million. So I will put more information about this grant in the chat as well. Some of the eligible topics, I guess, for this are plant health and production, plant products, animal health and production and animal products, food safety, nutrition and health, bioenergy, natural resources and environment, agriculture systems and technology, and then agriculture, economics, and rural communities. So you can learn more about this grant here. That should work. If that doesn't work, I have another one as well. But again, this will all be in the newsletter that we'll send out. The other grant is the USDA NIFA Community Food Project grant. The application deadline is October 30th, 2023. It's for eligible nonprofits, tribal organizations, and food program service providers for projects that promote self-sufficiency and food security in low-income communities. And for this, $4,800,000 is available. So here is the link for that grant for NIFA. And the next slide, please. So this one is an ongoing grant, which is the Climate Smart Communities grant. So it's ongoing until May 3rd, 2024. And the goal of this funding program is to assist municipalities in starting or expanding municipal food scrap recycling programs. So there's about $2 million available in funds. The first $1 million will prioritize eligible projects that dedicate at least 50% of their total requested funding to serve environmental justice communities. So this is a great initiative for us on Long Island to look at too, especially for those affected by the Brookhaven landfill. That's the first thing I thought of when I saw it. So hopefully either ourselves here at the Long Island Organics Council with some help, if some volunteers wanted to join us that are on this call today. But otherwise, this opportunity is out there for anyone else who's interested. Beth, next slide. I don't know if anyone has any other updates to share. If you want, you can type into the comments since we're running a little low on time, but next slide, Beth. As I was saying, we need some volunteers to help us expand our network. So if you know anyone, or if you yourself are interested in joining us on our steering committee, or even just to volunteer where we need it down the line, we're also thinking of offering some paid opportunities in the future as we get grant opportunities. Hopefully some are in store. Please let us know. You can email us, send your information or someone else's. And then next slide, Beth.
Yeah, I was going to say, we're hoping to form some committees. Like, I know one of our steering committee members, Meghna, is very interested in specific projects, like helping a school to do composting or a church. So, you know, we need more hands on deck to manage those things while the rest of us run other things. So definitely looking for help.
And that's it. That's a wrap. Thank you so much for joining us, everyone. We will announce our next meeting because we might have one in September, but we might not and just have in October. So we'll let you know. And that's about it. Thank you so much to our presenters once again.
Thank you. It was really, I loved all the questions. I hope I answered them well enough. And if I didn't, please send me an email. Happy to be more in depth.
And I echo that. Thank you very much. It was a pleasure joining you and speaking with everyone else. Mary has my email, but you can also email me at the North Fork Pollinator Pathway at Gmail, all one word. And I'll let you know how my fish gut experiment goes. And yeah.
No smell fish.
Yeah, it was amazing. No smelly fish. I love it.
That's great.
Love
And
Bye,
thank you,
everyone.
Anne.
Thank you. It was nice meeting a lot of you.
It was nice meeting you too.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank
too.
you.
Enjoy your evening. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.